The scent of burnt metal and coolant hung heavy in the air of Outpost 7's salvage yard. Rain pattered against twisted hulks of forgotten spacecraft, creating rivulets of rainbow-tinted fluid that pooled beneath heaps of corroded parts. Cale moved through the maze of wreckage with practiced ease, his scanner humming quietly as he searched for anything worth salvaging. "Got anything decent today, Hargo?" Cale called to the yard manager, a bulky man with cybernetic enhancements where his right arm should have been. "Nothing but junk," Hargo grunted, not looking up from his tablet. "Oh, there's a strange piece they brought in from the abandoned Shatari research vessel." Back corner, by the ion drive components, Cale's interest peaked. Shatari tech was advanced, particularly their propulsion systems. If he could salvage even a partial drive core, it would keep his small repair shop running for months. The rain intensified as he made his way deeper into the yard. His boots splashed through puddles, sending ripples across reflective surfaces. That's when he saw her. Not an ion drive, not a piece of equipment at all. She sat perfectly still against a twisted bulkhead, her purple skin dulled by grime but unmistakable beneath the yard's harsh lights. Her eyes remained closed, head tilted slightly as rain washed over her face. The marker tag attached to her wrist classified her as non-functional biosynth unit. Cale approached cautiously. Though her eyes opened startling violet irises focusing on him with unexpected clarity, she made no sound, no movement beyond that gaze. "Can you understand me?" Cale asked, crouching to her level. She nodded once, a barely perceptible movement. Cale glanced around. No one was watching. Biosynths were technically property, but abandoning sentient ones was illegal in most systems. "What happened to you?" She opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. Her hand rose to her throat, touching a thin metal band embedded in her flesh. "Vocal inhibitor," Cale whispered, recognizing the technology. "They silenced you." Another nod, her eyes conveying what her voice could not. Cale noticed the damage, then her left arm hanging at an odd angle, fluid leaking slowly from a tear in her shoulder. "Ash!" Her legs bore marks of recent repair attempts. Poorly executed and already failing. "I can help," he said, making a quick decision. "If you want?" For several seconds, she didn't respond. Then slowly, deliberately, she extended her undamaged hand toward him. Cale turned back toward Hargo's office. "How much for the biosynth in the back corner?" Hargo barely looked up. "That defective thing? 200 credits? Voice modules fried, motor functions degrading. Not worth your time. I'll take her," Cale said, transferring the credits without haggling. Hargo shrugged. "Your loss." No returns. As Cale helped her stand, her legs nearly buckling beneath her, he felt her grip tighten on his arm. "I'm Cale," he said quietly. "Do you have a name?" She shook her head, touching the inhibitor at her throat again. "Well," he said, supporting her weight as they moved toward the yard exit. "First thing we'll do is get that thing off you. Everyone deserves a voice." For the first time, something like hope flickered in her eyes as the rain washed clean tracks down her purple skin. Rain drummed against the skylight of Cale's workshop as he carefully helped the purple-skinned biosynth onto his workbench. The space was cluttered but clean, tools arranged methodically along the walls and soft lighting that cast warm shadows across metal surfaces. "This might be uncomfortable," Cale said, adjusting a scanner to examine the vocal inhibitor embedded in her throat. "But I need to understand what we're dealing with." She tilted her chin up, exposing the thin metallic band. Trust was evident in her gesture, though caution lingered in her eyes. The scanner hummed, projecting schematics into the air between them. Shatari design. "Military grade," Cale muttered, studying the projection. "This wasn't made for a commercial biosynth. This is the kind they use on prisoners." Her fingers tapped a rhythm against the workbench, drawing his attention. She pointed to herself, then made a gesture like hands bound together. "You were a prisoner?" Cale asked, understanding dawning. "Not just a service biosynth," she nodded. The movement tight and controlled. Cale set the scanner aside and moved to examine her damaged arm. The synthetic muscle fibers were torn, revealing glimpses of the delicate neural network beneath. As he worked, he kept talking, filling the silence she couldn't break. I left Central Authority Service 10 years ago. Military engineer. Saw too many things I couldn't unsee. His hands moved gently, disconnecting damaged components. Decided I'd rather fix things than break them. Her undamaged hand reached up, briefly touching his forearm in acknowledgement, perhaps even gratitude. This won't be quick, he admitted, examining her legs next. The damage is extensive. Someone tried to repair you before, but ... Her expression hardened slightly. A flash of old pain crossing her features. Not well, Kale finished. I'll need to fabricate new components. But first, he gestured to the inhibitor. Let's see about giving you back your voice. Hours passed as Kale worked. The inhibitor was complex, designed to punish any attempt at removal. He had to disconnect it neuron by neuron, his hands steady despite the stakes. One mistake could damage her speech centers permanently. As midnight approached, the final connection severed with a soft click. The inhibitor came away in his hands, revealing a thin line of scarred purple skin beneath. Try now, Kale said softly. Slowly, her lips parted. A hoarse sound emerged, made quite words, but something. Her eyes widened in surprise. It'll take time, Kale explained, setting the inhibitor aside. Your vocal systems need to recalibrate. She nodded, then gestured to the window where stars now peeked through breaking clouds. Dawn wasn't far off. Kale understood. Rest first. Tomorrow, we begin the real repairs. As he helped her to the small cot in the corner of his workshop, her fingers intertwined briefly with Hysa, silent promise that tomorrow would bring. More than just mechanical fixes. 3 days of meticulous work had transformed the workshop into a recovery room. Kale had replaced the damaged neural conduits in her legs and reconstructed her left arm using components he'd fabricated himself. The purple tone of her skin had brightened, its natural luminescence returning. As her system stabilized, Kale was soldering. A final connection in her wrist when she made. Another attempt at speech, the strongest. Yet, Tate, thank you. The words came out ragged but clear enough. Kale's head snapped up, a smile breaking across his usually serious face. You're welcome, he replied, setting his tools aside. How does it feel? She flexed her fingers, watching the movement with wonder. Strange, she said, voice growing steadier with each syllable. I was in tea. Meant to speak? Kale's brow furrowed. Everyone deserves to speak. Not ... me. She touched her throat, as if expecting the inhibitor to reappear. I was designed to listen. To work without ... complaint, Kale pulled up a stool across from her. What's your designation? Or would you prefer to choose a name? She hesitated. P717, she said. Laboratory designation. Never needed. A name. Well, you're not P717 anymore, Kale said firmly. Not in my workshop. A moment passed as she considered this. Lyra, she finally said. I heard it once. In a song before they ... silenced me. Lyra Kale repeated, the name hanging in the air between them. It suits you. For the first time, she smiled, a small, tentative thing that transformed her face. They will look for me, she said, her voice growing stronger. Escaped property. Kale's expression hardened. You're not property. To them I am. Created in their labs? Designed for space mining, her newly repaired fingers traced patterns on the workbench. I was ... defective. Too curious. Asked questions. That's when they installed the inhibitor and the damage to your limbs. Lyra's gaze dropped. Punishment. For trying to escape, they sold me to the salvage yard when I became ... unprofitable. Kale's hands clenched, but he kept his voice steady. Well, their loss is my gain. She looked up, surprise evident in her violet eyes. You're not afraid? Of harboring a fugitive? I've been hiding from something my whole life, Kale admitted. At least now I'd be hiding for something worthwhile. The confession hung between them. An unexpected vulnerability from the stoic mechanic. Lyra reached across the workbench, her purple fingers hovering just above his. Why help me? Kale considered this, then shrugged. Because it's the right thing to do. Because everyone deserves a chance. His eyes met hers. Because when I saw you sitting there in the rain, I recognized something in you that I've been trying to find in myself. What? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Resilience, he answered simply. Despite everything, you hadn't given up. Her fingers finally touched his, the contact sending a current of something neither of them could name through the workshop's quiet air. I still haven't, Lyra said, her voice stronger than ever before. Morning sunlight filtered through the workshop skylight, casting prism patterns across the floor where Lyra was taking her first confident step since the repairs. Her movements were cautious but steady, each step more assured than the last. The calibration is holding, Cale observed, leaning against his workbench, arms crossed as he watched her progress. How does it feel? Like freedom, Lyra replied, her voice growing stronger daily. She turned to face him, violet eyes bright with wonder. I never walked without pain before. Cale smiled, the expression softening his usually guarded features. The synthetic nerve endings should continue to integrate. Give it time. Lyra completed a full circuit of the workshop before stopping before him. I've had enough of waiting, she said. I want to see outside. Beyond these walls, concern flickered across Cale's face. Outpost 7 isn't known for its tolerance. Biosynths without owners. I know the risks, she interrupted, her purple fingers lightly touching his arm. But I've spent my existence in labs and cargo holds. I want to feel real air. Their eyes held for a moment before Cale nodded. We'll go at dusk. Fewer people, as promised, when the station's artificial daylight dimmed to evening. Cale led Lyra through the back exit of his workshop. He'd given her one of his jackets too large for her frame, but perfect for partially concealing her distinctive purple skin. The main promenade of Outpost 7 stretched before them. A chaotic blend of merchant stalls, repair shops, and food vendors catering to dozens of species. Neon signs bathed everything in artificial twilight, competing with the genuine starlight visible through the station's transparent upper dome. It's so much, Lyra whispered, her fingers instinctively finding Cale's as they navigated the crowded walkway. He didn't pull away. Focus on one thing at a time, he advised gently. What catches your attention? Lyra's gaze darted from vendor to vendor before settling on a small stall selling hot beverages. The scent of spiced tea wafted through the recycled station air. That, she decided. Moments later, they stood at the edge of the promenade, looking out through a viewpoint at the star-scattered void beyond. Lyra cradled the warm cup between her hands, savoring the sensation of heat against her sensitive fingertips. I've processed her for 3 years, she said quietly. Mining asteroids. I could see space through the ship's viewports, but never like this. Never just to appreciate it. Cale watched her profile, illuminated by starlight. What will you do now? If you could choose anything. She considered this, her expression thoughtful. I don't know what I'm capable of. No one ever asked what I wanted before. Well, Cale said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Now someone's asking. Lyra turned to him. The distance between them suddenly charged with something neither had anticipated. First, I want to learn everything you know about mechanics. How to build, not just be built. And after that, her lips curved into a smile. After that, I want to help others like me. Her fingers brushed against his again, deliberately this time. But for now, I'm still learning what it means to be free. The moments stretched between them, fragile and new. Then, with a boldness that surprised them both, Lyra leaned forward and pressed her lips against his, a gesture she'd seen but never experienced. When she pulled back, Cale's expression was unreadable. I'm sorry, she began, suddenly uncertain. But Cale shook his head, one hand rising to gently touch her cheek. Don't be, he whispered, before drawing her close again. Above them, stars wheeled in silent witness as two unlikely souls found something neither had been looking for. The alarm blared through the workshop, jolting Cale from sleep. He reached for the security console beside his bed, eyes quickly scanning the feed. 3 authority officers stood outside his door, flanked by a tall figure in Satari corporate uniform. "Lyra," he hissed, already moving. "They're here." Lyra emerged from the small room Kale had converted for her use over the past 2 weeks. Her expression was calm despite the danger. "I knew they would come eventually. The escape tunnel," Kale said. Grabbing an emergency pack, he'd prepared for this eventuality. "Behind the parts locker. It leads to docking bay 6. Lyra shook her head, her purple hands steady as she tied back her hair. "No, I'm done running." "This isn't the time for a stand," Kale argued, desperation edging his voice. "That's Overseer Drav outside. He runs the entire Satari biosynth program." "I know exactly who he is," Lyra said, her voice hardening. "He designed me. Installed my inhibitor personally when I began questioning orders." The pounding on the door grew more insistent. "Mechanic Kale Varden," a mechanical voice announced. "You are harboring stolen Satari property. Open this door immediately, or face level 5 charges." Kale's mind raced through options. "My ship's prepped. We could make it past the outer markers before they track us." "And then what?" Lyra asked, stepping closer to him. "Keep running forever." "What about other biosynths still in their control?" Their eyes met, an entire conversation passing in seconds. Kale saw the determination in her violet gaze, no longer the hesitant, broken figure he'd found in the salvage yard. "What's your plan?" he asked finally. Lyra smiled, touching his face with gentle fingers. "I recorded everything. My creation, the inhibitor, the punishment. It's all in my neural core evidence of violations against the sentient creation accords." Kale's eyes widened. "You'd need authority access to upload that, which is why I'm going to let them take me," she explained. "Get me to their central processing facility. I can connect directly to their systems there." "That's suicide," Kale whispered. "No," Lyra countered. "It's purpose. Something I chose." The door shuddered as override codes began cycling through the lock. Kale made his decision, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "I'm coming with you. They'll arrest you. Let them try." He released her, moving quickly to his workbench where he grabbed a small device. "Remote uplink. If they separate us, use this. It connects directly to my ship's communication array." As the door finally slid open, they stood together, mechanic and biosynth, hand in hand. Overseer Drav entered first, his tall frame imposing in the cramped workshop, his cold eyes fixed on Lyra. "Property P-717, he stated flatly. "Your malfunction has caused considerable inconvenience." Lyra lifted her chin, voice clear and steady. "My name is Lyra, and I am not property." Drav's expression registered surprise at her voice. Quickly masked by contempt, the mechanic removed your inhibitor. "How ... unfortunate guards." "Secure them both, sir," one officer interrupted. "The mechanic has filed for protection under Section 14 of the Sentient Creation Accords. He's claiming whistleblower status." Drav's face paled slightly. "On what grounds?" "On grounds that I have complete neural records of illegal experimentation and sentient rights violations," Lyra answered, her voice unwavering. "Records I've just transmitted to Central Authority Headquarters." Kale couldn't suppress a small smile at her deception. The transmission would take hours to prepare. But Drav didn't need to know that. "You're bluffing," Drav hissed. "Would you like to wait for the Authority investigation team to arrive and find out?" Kale challenged. The standoff stretched for what seemed like eternity before Drav finally spoke. "What do you want?" Lyra's fingers tightened around Kale's. "Freedom. Not just for me, for all biosynths in your facilities. And the dissolution of the inhibitor program." "Impossible," Drav snapped. "Then I look forward to your trial," Lyra replied serenely. 3 days later, as they stood watching the news broadcast announcing emergency oversight of Satari's biosynth program and the release of the first group of inhibited workers, Kale turned to Lyra. "Was it worth it?" he asked quietly. Lyra looked at him, the purple hue of her skin luminous in the light of his workshop, no longer a hiding place, but a home. "Freedom always is," she answered, her voice once silenced now, strong enough to change worlds. and finding you in the process. That was the melody I never knew I was missing. Their hands intertwined, mechanic and biosynth. Partners in a revolution neither had planned, but both had needed a revolution of voice, of choice, of love, unexpected but uncompromising. And somewhere in the vastness of Outpost 7, other silenced voices began to whisper of hope.